The Tennis Gambling Podcast on the Sports Game Podcast Network is brought to you by Fantasy. Sign up with Market SGPN. Get 50% deposit bonus up to $1,000. That's by Edge Boost. Or $70 per month on your sports gaming transactions. With Edge Boost bet, promo code SGPN. We're also brought to you by Rhythm, the leading edge from picks and props. Rhythm's also giving away $25 future and throwing a March Madness party. Go to sportsgaming.com/party for details. And welcome, everybody, to the Tennis Game Podcast here on the Sports Game Podcast Network. It is currently Wednesday night, roughly 9 p.m. Eastern Time on February 26th. I'm always Scott Reichel, once again going solo for this pod. Time to get into the quarterfinals in Dubai. We're going to break down some other events, but unfortunately, Acapulco ends way too late, and we didn't get enough lines out for Santiago. So as a result, we are going to only do Dubai for the sake of this episode. So 4 matches to break down, still a decent amount, and we'll get into each of them in a second. For that, though, I do want to recap what happened last week, both for the last episode, for the lock and dog picks and for the overall takeaway so far in Dubai. Starting off with the lock and dog picks, unfortunately, our first reverse sweep in a while, ended up losing the lock and the dog. For the lock, we had Morozin to win the match at -145 against Agut. I'll get back to that match in a second, but definitely a brutal loss there. And for the dog, we had Perricard and Zhang first set over 10.5 at +105. Went back to the well, didn't work out. Zhang no-showed the first 20 minutes or so of the match, and then eventually did not get broken for about the last hour. But either way, point is second set was a breaker, first set was not, and as a result, ended up picking up a loss there as Perricard won the first set 6-3. For the lock, though, that Morozin loss, I've said before, take some losses as learning experiences, or learning, I'd say, moments, trying to figure out what went wrong. The truth is, Morozin, I thought, outplayed Agut for the majority of the match, and he just choked. So it was really tough to say that it was a bad read or anything like that, because Morozin, in my opinion, should have won the match. Or looking at the chances he had, the actual stats, I thought he was the better player the majority of that matchup. And Morozin, I think, closed to -170, -180. But to read off the stats that back it up, Morozin won 9% more first serve points and 16% more second serve points, and he lost the match, which is really tough to do. You outperform your opponent in first serve and second serve, and you still lose. And it wasn't like there was a lopsided set in there that skewed the numbers. It was 6-3, 3-6, 6-7. So Morozin lost a heartbreaker. Main reason, could not convert a break point. He was 2 of 12 on break points. Agut was 2 of 3. That's what ended up happening. So either way, Morozin, we got a good line. Thought it was a good matchup. And unfortunately, Morozin just completely choked away every chance he had to win the match. But either way, picked up a loss for the lock and dog. As for the actual recap, though, for the round of 16 over in Dubai, decent amount of upsets so far in the event. To get into the round of 16, though, you saw Medvedev look great so far, beat Struff and beat Perricard comfortably. No breakers in straight sets. Saw Griekspoor end up beating Humbert in a surprising upset there in 3 sets. Griekspoor's on the ropes against Safulin in that second set. Came back and he won, and then he was able to build on that momentum as he ended up beating defending champion Humbert in the round of 16. So Tsitsipas beat Khachanov. He always beats Khachanov, nothing new, but it was a fun 3-setter. Berrettini looks great, though. Beat O'Connell in straight sets in the match on Wednesday. Weird draw for O'Connell because he faced off against Dimitrov, who played 6 games, lost all 6 games, and said, "I'm out of here." And Dimitrov left. So congratulations to everybody listening to the show. We all won the same amount of games in Dubai as Dimitrov. So congratulations to all of us for the tournament run. But either way, O'Connell ended up losing to Berrettini comfortably in straight sets on Wednesday. Moving on, you saw Nardi beat Bergs in straight sets, competitive. Nardi looked like he was going to lose the second set. Then he eventually came back and he ended up winning. But either way, point is Nardi ended up getting the job done there against Bergs after beating Fucsovics in the first round. Pretty fun scenario, though, in the first round because Fucsovics actually beat him in qualifying. And then Nardi got a lucky loser draw. So he ended up taking the place of the guy that dropped out and got immediate revenge against Fucsovics. But you saw Bergs lose in straight sets there. You ended up seeing Hallis beat Agut in straight sets. I think Agut's been really bad lately. I still think he's washed. I think that, once again, Morozin choked away a golden opportunity to win the match. I have no regrets about that play. Either way, the point is Agut ended up losing to Hallis, who played well after Hallis was able to upset Rublev in the first round of the event. You ended up seeing Felix beat Borges in 3 sets, competitive there. Eventually did win 7-5 in the third. And Cilic has had a great run. Beat Deminaur in 3 sets and beat Papiron in 3 sets. And I see Cilic playing well. We know that he, of course, is a future Hall of Famer, former Grand Slam champion, and the issues have been injuries over the last couple of years. He's healthy again, and he's played well here in Dubai. And you have a good matchup as a result between Felix and Cilic into the quarterfinals. But anyway, that's going to wrap it up for the actual recap of the quarters or I should say of the round of 16, for Dubai. Look at the other events so far. You had a weird walkover in Mexico, actually, as Paul ended up deciding he couldn't play. Ended up quitting, which was rough for us because we had him to win the event. But he was able to destroy Diallo in the first round and then quit. So I find that kind of weird. But Shelton just lost to Goffin, which I find kind of shocking, but still nice win there for Goffin, who's had a really rough year or so. Moore ended up losing immediately if you went for the fatigue fade after having the final run on clay in Rio. Moore really never stood a chance. He was just completely a step behind the entire way through. Movement wasn't there. He looked exhausted, and Tiafoe beat him comfortably. But for the most part, you've seen a lot of chaos over in Dubai. Santiago's been crazy too. The Chileans have been really, really bad. Looking at the actual results here, Echeverry beat Garin today. He ended up seeing Vera lose 6-1, 6-0 to Coria. You saw Jari lose in a match he should have won against Ugo Carabelli. Had a couple match points, ended up punting it. Classic Jari loss. But the Chileans have not been good so far in the event. Desir, though, looks really good. Was able to beat Martinez in straight sets today. You ended up seeing Comasagna play well. I like Comasagna. I think he's a solid young player. Sarundolo beat Hanfman in a third set breaker. And you ended up seeing Faria, who had a pretty respectable run there last week in Rio, playing well in Santiago, as he was able to beat Heidi in a 3-set marathon there. But overall, nothing too shocking besides that. A fun update to a story, though. Mentioned last week, Venus Williams accepted a wild card entry to Indian Wells. Turns out that was just completely made up because they asked Venus about it, and Venus was once again asked about potentially coming back after not playing for about a year. And Venus said, I have no idea what the hell you're talking about. So Venus said she was traveling. She said that she did not accept a wildcard entry, and she wasn't going to play. So Venus, I guess, is still de facto retired. But I thought it was pretty funny how Tommy Haas had to come out as the tournament director of Indian Wells, and he basically had to say, unfortunately, it didn't work out, instead of explaining like what actually happened in the situation. But Venus was apparently offered a wildcard draw, and she did not know about it at all, and nobody contacted her, which I find kind of funny. But either way, Venus will not be making her return to tennis at Indian Wells. So either way, mentioned that last week, worth bringing it up. Pretty weird scenario, but still, and she's not going to end up playing as the main, I'd say, bullet point of that story. I also want to remind you once again, though, before we officially move on into the quarters in Dubai, I want to remind you once again that you can support for the show by like subscribing and mute your reminder. You can also leave a rating and a review on Spotify or Apple. Saw a pretty decent jump in subscribers over the last week. Think we went from like 796 to like 806. So a nice 10 subscriber jump over the last couple days. Thank you if you are new to the show. Hopefully you do enjoy it. If you are, once again, a veteran of this podcast, of course, hopefully you still like the content. And a reminder, you can also help the show grow by like subscribing. And we also have the show on audio format only on Spotify or Apple if you want to do that as well. Anyway, a reminder, you'd also find some merchandise on the SGPN merch store for the show. We have Tennis Game Podcast shirts. We have mugs. We have sweatshirts. All high quality, all affordable, different colors as well. So we recommend getting yourself something on the merch store. And a reminder, for the actual promo that we have this week, we have a great deal in the merch store, because if you end up using the code MADNESS, you can help with Merch Madness because you get 20% off in the SGPN store. So if you use the code MADNESS at checkout, 20% off anything in the store. Get it on the actual promo before it is done. A reminder, once again, if you want some Tennis Game Podcast merchandise, use the promo code MADNESS for 20% off on the merch store at checkout. A reminder, though, we are also brought to you by our sponsors, Edge Boost, because Edge Boost has partnered up with SGPN, the premier Visa debit card for bettors. Edge Boost card allows the ability to avoid being hassled at the sportsbook for having your card denied at, once again, the sportsbook, the DFS site, the sweepstakes site, racetrack, or casino. Reminder, you can also earn cashback rewards, $750 per month in cashback rewards by using the Edge Boost card. And a reminder, your money is always safe because the card is FDIC insured. And the best part, no credit checks, and it's completely free. Sign up today, use the promo code SGPN to get better cashback rewards and instant status. Reminder, though, use the link edgeboost.bet, promo code SGPN, edgeboost.bet, promo code SGPN. We're also brought to MyBookie. MyBookie is the place to bet on every sport. They have props in every game. They have live casino. They also accept customers with a ton of locations. So if you are in a state that does not exactly have legalized betting, you can use MyBookie instead. And a reminder, you could also easily deposit and get payouts in crypto, which makes everything lightning fast. And a reminder, if you head to mybookie.ag with the promo code SGPN when you sign up for your new account for a 100% deposit match up to 1K in bonus cash. Plus, a reminder, you can also get $10 casino chip, mybookie.ag, promo code SGPN. Welcome back, everyone, to the Tennis Game Podcast. Finish recapping what happened over the last couple of days in Dubai, in Acapulco, and in Santiago. Now it's time to move on to the quarterfinal matchups in Dubai, taking place on a Thursday. So for the first match we're going to talk about, you have a matchup between Cilic and Felix. Damn, we're starting off on a high note. That is actually a really, really nice opening match. So for the actual money line here, Felix is minus 240. Cilic is around plus 200. For the spread, you have minus 3 for Felix. You have plus 3 for Cilic. The over-under is set at 22.5. The over is minus 121. The under is plus 100. So you can find 21.5 heavily juiced if you want to, or maybe a flat 22 if you shop around. For the spread here, for the sets, you have Felix in straight sets at plus 110. You have Cilic to win a set at minus 140. The over 2.5 sets is plus 145. Now, for the head-to-head history, Cilic has been good against Felix, but a lot of numbers or actual matchups are dated because they faced off 3 times before 2022. They've now faced off since 2022, so once again, it is a little bit dated, but Felix won the last meeting in the Australian Open 2022 in 4 sets. You saw Cilic win the first 3 in, you had 1 grass and 2 hard court matches there. So either way, point is you should see a pretty fun battle between them. Now, Felix has been good this season, 2 titles, and we've seen him play well so far. In this event, did have a marathon win against Borges, had a nice 3-set win as well against Bublik. So a couple of 3-set marathons for Felix so far, but he's been good as a whole, made a good run there in Doha before losing to Rublev in the semis, and then eventually did end up making it into the quarters here in Dubai. So he's playing good tennis. Now, as for Cilic, he was really an unknown at this point because he'd been injured a lot. We didn't see him since November. Showed up for Doha, lost a respectable showing to Alcaraz 6-4, 6-4. Then beat de Minaur in a shocking upset there based on the money line. I think he was plus 800 in 3 sets. Beat Papiron, though, in 3 sets as well. So you have seen each player go to a deciding set in the first 2 rounds, and you might end up seeing the same thing here in this one. Now, for the actual matchup, the real question is if Cilic is going to be fatigued or not because he's not played much tennis, and now he's in a 3rd round after having a couple of marathon matches in the first 2 rounds, and Felix is significantly younger. However, based on the matchup, I like the over in this one. I'm not going to read too much into fatigue. I think that's a good overall spot for both guys to go for a semifinal spot in a pretty important event, and I think you're looking at what should be a marathon match. I like the over in this one. I see a potential, once again, back and forth battle with 2 very good servers. Might see a breaker or 2 in this one as well. So I like the over in games. I think 22.5 is too low. I think you're looking at a spot where you can get a breaker and a 6-4. So there is a chance one guy wins in straight sets, and you still cash the over. For the value, though, plus, once again, 145 on over 2.5 sets is a great price, in my opinion. The last 2 of the last 3 head-to-head meetings ended up going to a deciding set as well, or not ending in straight sets, I should say. So I think you're looking at Cilic and Felix having a good old-fashioned war with good serves, with not many break points, and with what should be a back-and-forth battle. Give me the over for the games and the sets here. For the actual value, though, do I think Felix should be laying 3 games here? I understand it, but I'm going to go with Cilic, actually. I think 3 games is a lot when I'm not expecting many breaks, and I am expecting a marathon. We know that Felix had a couple breakers against Bublik. He had a marathon match against Borges in the last round where he ended up covering this line. Actually, did he cover this line? He ended up pushing this line. So Felix has not covered this line in 3 straight matches, and Cilic has been very feisty so far, beating de Minaur and beating Papiron. I'll go with the, once again, games here for Cilic, but I prefer the over in this one. Give me a nice competitive battle between 2 good servers. Moving on to the next matchup, you have Halys against Nardi. So for this one, Halys is minus 120. Nardi's plus 100. For the spread here, you have minus half a game at minus 114 for Halys. You have plus half a game for Nardi at minus 106. For the over-under, you have 23.5 games. For the set spread, you have Halys in straight sets at plus 200. Nardi to win a set is available at minus 260. Nardi in straight sets is plus 260. The over 2.5 sets is around plus 125, plus 130. So not the matchup you expected to see in this actual quarterfinal matchup, but Nardi has been making the most of a second chance because he ended up losing in qualifying to Fuchsovics. Got revenge, though, in the first round, the immediate rematch, then beat Bergs in straight sets. Now, for the path for Halys, though, he's been solid. He went through qualifying as well, beat Uchiyama, beat Kotov, ended up beating Rublev in 3 in a final set breaker, and beat Agut in straight sets. So Halys, I think, has been playing good tennis. He has won 6 of his last 7 matches. He has been in good form. Now, we know that both guys are pretty similar in terms of streakiness, but I think Halys is more consistent if I had to compare the 2 of them. Both guys, though, are ranked in the high 70s, so a pretty even battle based on the rankings and based on, you could argue, form in the event. I think, though, for the actual price, I think Halys is too cheap. Halys lost a set to Rublev, which is fine. I know Rublev could have had a fatigue issue after winning a title the previous week, but still, He had a nice win against a top 10 opponent that ended up beating a Goot, who I said before might be watched, was competitive, but he won in straight sets, did his part there. Nardi beat Bergs in a match that he probably should have lost a set in. And the first round against Fucsovics, he was down a set and then eventually was down a break in the third set. Felt like Fucsovics had a bunch of chances, just could not convert, and then eventually did get a break because of a double fault from Fucsovics. So it felt like Nardi probably should have either lost the third set or had a potential tiebreak there, but he just did a good job keeping his nerve on clutch points. But I really have not been that impressed by Nardi in the event. Yes, I'm impressed he made it this far. I didn't think he would. But if you're asking which player I think has looked better so far in the event, I would pick Hallis because he has beaten better competition. I think Hallis is the better server as well. So I'll go with Hallis in this one. I think his firepower will be a little bit too much for Nardi to handle. I think it'll be close, though. I think it'll probably go 3 sets, maybe a breaker in there. But I think you're looking at Hallis, who is the better player, in my opinion, better track record as well. I'll go with him to get the job done at a pretty cheap price at minus 120 as my main option for this match. Moving on to the next one, you have Medvedev against Griekspoor. Now, for the actual money line, you have Medvedev at minus 360. You have Griekspoor at plus 290. For the spread, minus 3.5 for Medvedev, plus 3.5 for Griekspoor. The over-under in game set at 22.5. For the set spread, you have Medvedev in straight sets at minus 130. You have Griekspoor to win a set at even money. For the sets here, for the over-under, you have over 2.5 sets at plus 170. Now, for the, but I forgot to mention, by the way, Hallis did beat Nardi in the only head-to-head meeting, but that was back in 2021. Very dated. Doesn't matter. Didn't really bother mentioning it, but point is they did face off previously. Moving on, though, to the Medvedev Griekspoor head-to-head. No head-to-head history, so nothing to talk about. Now, for the path, ended up seeing Griekspoor win a great comeback against Safulin. Then he ended up having a nice comeback against Humbert as he won in 3. Has lost the first set, though, in the first 2 matches. So you're actually looking at that recent matchups for Griekspoor. He's been really bad in the first set. He's actually lost the first set in 3 straight. So if you want to consider maybe taking a Medvedev to win the first set and the match, it'll still probably be a minus price, but maybe you can get some reduced juice on that. Now, Medvedev's been great. Beat Struff in straight sets and beat Perricard 6-4, 6-4. No breakers against Perricard, though, is impressive. So that is a good showing by him. Medvedev, though, we saw look good in Doha. Then he got food poisoning after the first set against Felix. And the point is Medvedev has been playing better recently, but he's had some random flare-ups, and that's kind of the main concern about trusting Medvedev for a match. It seems like something goes wrong in a tournament more often than not over the last year. So I'll see if he can keep it together. Do want to point out, though, we actually have an outright already on this matchup because we have Griekspoor to win the quarter at 9-1. So the outrights, by the way, so far have not been very good. I'll admit it. But however, we do have some quarter odds that are very juicy. So hopefully we end up cashing. But we have Griekspoor at 9-1 to win the first quarter. So if you want to hedge it, you can. But we do have action if you ended up backing all my outrights. Apologies, though, the outrights have really not been that great. But still, we have a 9-1 shot, which would help out a lot if it ends up happening. Do I think he's going to win? No. I think Medvedev's going to win. But we do have Griekspoor at 9-1. Wanted to mention it before I forgot. But point is, Dubai has really not been good for most people, I think, when it comes to outrights, because a lot of underdogs have won so far. A lot of main guys have lost already. Rublev, de Minaur, you get the point. So we don't have much left in Dubai, but Griekspoor to win the quarter at 9-1 would definitely help out a lot if that works itself out. But point is, we already have a bet on this matchup indirectly, so I wanted to bring that up. I think Medvedev wins. Do I think he'll win in straight sets? Probably. But I don't know if I trust Medvedev enough to actually look sharp for 3 matches in a row. I think Medvedev probably wins in 3. But the question is, wins in straight sets, but do I want to bet that? Not really, at minus 130. This might be a pass for me. If you want to argue for a breaker, because Griekspoor is a breaker machine, that's an option too. Maybe a team total over for Medvedev at like 12.5. I don't mind, but Griekspoor's had a couple of long matches. Medvedev not so much, so you could argue that Griekspoor might be exhausted. But I think beating Humbert should build confidence. I think that he's a solid player nonetheless. Also kind of a breaker magnet based on how his events have gone so far in 2025. Give me the over for this one. Maybe the over breaker as well in this one. But I think Medvedev team total over 12.5 would be my main thought for that one. Moving on to the last matchup, you have arguably the match of the day. You have Berrettini against Tsitsipas. Berrettini is minus 160. Tsitsipas is plus 140. For the spread, you have minus 1.5, give or take, for Berrettini. You have plus 1.5 for Tsitsipas. The over-under in game set at 23.5 or 24.5. For the set spread, you have Berrettini in straight sets at plus 155. You have Tsitsipas 2 in straight sets at plus 325. The over 2.5 sets is around plus 130. Now, for that history, they have faced off a couple of times. Faced off, doing the math here. They have faced off a grand total of 7 times. However, there were, I believe, a couple walkovers in there. So looking at the head-to-head history, though, Tsitsipas has been very good against Berrettini. Face-off last year on clay, Berrettini did win that one 7-6, 7-5. Face-off in the United Cup 2023, you saw Tsitsipas win in 3. You're looking at the hardcore meetings, though, and Tsitsipas has been really, really good. In fact, Tsitsipas has never lost to Berrettini on hardcourt. So I find it interesting that Berrettini's favored. Yes, he's played much better recently. Tsitsipas has had a couple of close calls, had a very competitive matchup in straight sets against Soniga, which he won, then had a marathon against Khachanov. But Berrettini's been solid, beating O'Connell and beating Monfils in straight sets. So Berrettini's been playing well, lost in Doha in 3 to Draper, but overall, winning 4 of his last 5, he's been good. Now, for the value, though, I think I got to go Tsitsipas here. I find it tough to take a guy who is basically 1-in-5 lifetime against the opponent, and he's laying 160. I get the argument is that the fast-paced courts and Berrettini's firepower should translate well, but he's not a great returner. Tsitsipas has been volleying a lot more, and I think he should be doing that because I think that he's a pretty good volleyer. But you're looking at the hardcourt history, and Tsitsipas has owned him. I feel like it's a spot where you might see a marathon. Maybe it goes 3 sets, but I think I'm going to go Tsitsipas with the value. I think that plus 144, give or take, is pretty high. I think Berrettini should be favored, but in my opinion, minus 120, minus 125. I think he's looked better based on eye tests of this event, but I feel like some things are matchup based. And if you're going to go with a plus money play for a guy that's owned the head-to-head this dramatically, I got to take a swing here. But I think I like the over as well in this one. You might see a breaker in this one. Breaker, I think, was like minus 160 or something in this one. So I expect the marathon. I don't mind the over, but I think 24.5 really does not give you much value. Maybe a team total over if you want to go for Tsitsipas at 13 at even money. But they price up the over because they're expecting a marathon. So I'll go with Tsitsipas in this one. My prediction, though, would be Tsitsipas in 3. Maybe if you want to go for my same game parlay for the player prop, once again, the team total parlayed together, I don't mind that. I can actually look that up right now on a Caesars. But I believe Caesars had 13.5 for one of them. So I'm not sure if they do. Let me quickly check if I can get that. But I see a competitive matchup that features a breaker in there. So I think it could be a good spot for a same-game parlay with the team totals for both guys. But if I'm pulling it up right now on Caesars, yeah, so Berrettini's at 13.5, Tsitsipas at 12.5. I don't mind 12.5, though, at Tsitsipas at minus 115. I think that's a great price in general, but if you want to do the same-game parlay, you can get those two at plus 175. Tsitsipas, though, minus 115 for 12.5. I think that's a bargain. I think that's a great deal. If you're picking it to go 3, then you like your chances. You might get a breaker in there, too. I think it's a good spot. Give me Tsitsipas team total over 12.5 at minus 115 as my main thought for that one. I see Savage mentioning that Shelton ended up losing to Goffin. I was not going to take Shelton in Acapulco. I ended up skipping him because I thought that the court speed would actually hurt him. Based on previous winners, rallying skills actually translate very well to Acapulco. So I thought that the firepower that some guys possess would actually get neutralized by the courts. That's what happened, as Goffin was just able to outlast Shelton in a bunch of rallies. But yes, Shelton, we know, he's been better over the course of the last couple of years, but he still finds some, I'd say, upsetting losses and some underachieving. But based on the courts in Acapulco, I expected it to be full of ralliers doing well. We've seen that so far, and that is not exactly Shelton's MO. So either way, Shelton did lose there. The point is, though, for this matchup, give me Tsitsipas on the team total over 12.5 as my main play at minus 115 on Caesars. Anyway, that's going to wrap it up for the actual preview of the 4 quarterfinal matches. Now it's time for the lock and dog picks. For that, though, remember, once again, they're brought to you by Rhythm, because if you're trying to actually try out betting models, Rhythm can help you do that because they have options for you. You can either build your own model, come up with a leaderboard, or let Rhythm build one for you, or you can honestly just do it from scratch or all the above. So if you want to try out betting models, you can try it any of those ways. Remember, the Rhythm's having an epic March Madness party, and you're all invited. All the users are invited to the first 4 watch party Wednesday, March 19th at the awesome Circle Las Vegas at Stadium Swim. Free drinks, plus you get to hang out with the guys from Sports Gambling Podcast and College Experience. Spoiler, by the way, I will be there. So if you want to actually meet me in person, I'll be in Vegas at that party on Wednesday, March 19th. So don't forget to sign up before it is too late. Reminder, though, that Rhythm's also giving away a free future, $50 March Madness future for one lucky Rhythm user. You can also, once again, get the future bet if you cannot attend the party. So you can still be entered into the free giveaway if you cannot go to Las Vegas personally. Don't worry about it. Sign up, though, for your 7-day free trial by going to sports.com/Rhythm. And a reminder that when you come by, you let Rhythm help you with your bracket. And a reminder that you can also place some bets while you're there. Free party, though, plus a chance to $50 future bet. Go to sportsgamble.com/party for details. Sportsgamble.com/party for details. Sportsgamble.com/party for details about the party. Reminder that we're also brought to you by Underdog Fantasy because they have a great Underdog Pick'em, and you can use a bunch of different sports for your entry. The NBA, NHL, college basketball, whatever sport you can think of, tennis as well. They have a lot of options. Underdog's also offering a great discount. They're offering a Luka Doncic discount for every Lakers game for the rest of the season, which is a great deal. Also, for football diehards, they have pick 'em projections. They have 40-yard dash times during combine. So if you want to get really degen, you could actually look at the combine for 40-yard dash times. And a reminder, for the promo code, use the promo code SGPN when you sign up for a special pick and a first-time deposit over up to 1K bonus cash on fantasy promo code SGPN. Welcome back, everyone, to the Tennis Game Podcast. Just finished breaking down the 4 quarterfinal matchups in Dubai. Now it's time for the lock and dog pick. For the lock, I was really torn because there were 2 things I thought about. One was the Tsitsipas team total over. Then again, this is Tsitsipas we're talking about, so I decided not to take him, but I don't mind that play. I am going to go with the random matchup in the quarters between Nardi and Hallis, and I am going to go with Hallis moneyline at -120. Hallis, I think, has been in better form. He has won 6 of his last 7. He went through qualifying. He's only dropped 1 set in 4 matches to Rublev. So once again, he's beaten good competition. He's only dropped 1 set here. Nardi, though, is lucky to be here. Did lose in qualifying to Fucsovics. Got revenge in the first round, but he really is not beating great competition. Fucsovics wasn't good form, I'll admit it, but he's been more of a challenger guy lately than beat a pretty decent player in Bergs, but I thought that Bergs punted that second set away. But Nardi's been vulnerable in each of the first 2 matches. He was down a break in that third set to Fucsovics. I think he's gotten by, but I think that Hallis has looked better based on eye test, and I think he's got a little bit more firepower for the courts here in Dubai. Hallis, though, I think, has been playing good tennis. I think that he is right now in better form. You could argue slightly, but still. -120, though, I think is a pretty good price for a guy that's dropped 1 set in 4 matches here, including an upset win over a top 10 player fresh off a title. I think that he's, once again, the more talented player, in my opinion. Give me Hallis moneyline at -120 is my lock. I think he should be closer, in my opinion, to -135, -140. So I'll take the value on the money line. For the dog, though, I am going to go back to that Felix and Cilic match. Mentioned before, I like the over for the actual games and sets, but I'm going to go with a match actual prop here. I'm going to go with the over half a tiebreak at +120. Both guys are good servers. I do not expect many breaks throughout the match, but you're looking at Felix having a bunch of breakers recently. 6 of the last 7 matches with 2 fully completed sets. He's had a couple of walkovers and a couple of retirements. In 6 of Felix's last 7 matches, in which 2 full sets were completed, there have been at least 1 tiebreak. So Felix had a lot of breakers. He had a 7-5 in the last match against Borges, so he was right there for a potential breaker as well. So it could have been 7 out of 7. But he's had a bunch of breakers, and you're looking at both guys being involved in breakers against each other. Each of the last 2 at the meetings had at least 1 tiebreak. So I see, once again, a close battle, 2 good servers. I think you're looking at 1 set at least that should go the distance. Give me the over half a tiebreak with 2 good servers. And with Felix's tiebreak, I'd say numbers recently, I think it's a good spot here and a good price. So around even money on Bet Rivers, but DraftKings at +120. So I'll take that now before it moves. So once again, the plays here for the quarters in Dubai. The lock's going to be on Hallis moneyline at -120 against Nardi. For the dog, I am going to go with Felix and Cilic over half a breaker at +120. That's going to wrap it up for the episode. Remind back once again for the semis in Dubai. Going to be weird waiting for actual breakdowns. Apologies if you're waiting for Santiago or Acapulco. Acapulco is really tough because those matches end very, very late. And Santiago, the lines come out a bit later too. So might not be back for the semis for Santiago or Acapulco. We'll see. Maybe if we do an early episode one day. But we'll see what happens. Point is, next episode, though, will be Dubai. So keep an eye out for that tomorrow. Reminder, though, you can also support the show by subscribing to YouTube. Reminder, you can leave a rating and a review on Spotify or Apple. And reminder, check the merch store as well for SGPN. Once again, merch. We have a lot of great deals. Use code MADNESS at checkout for 20% off. Check in the comment section, though, for the episode before I officially wrap it up. Looking at Thunder stopping by, Brett stopping by as well. Savage, yeah, Shoppo looks really good. One of those, I'd say, tournaments we've actually done well with. The outrights on Acapulco have been really good. So far, I know that Paul ended up dropping out, which sucks. But Shoppo, we ended up taking at a good price. And then Musetti dropped out, which we thought might happen. And because of that, Shoppo actually got moved into a different spot on the bracket because he got seated. So we got a great price on Shoppo, and we inherited an easier draw. So Shoppo's actually got a phenomenal path to make a deep run. think he was in the Paul section, actually. So he has Giron potentially in the next round. So Shapo's got a great draw to potentially cash an outright for us. So hopefully that works out. I know the outrights in Dubai have not been good. Apologies there. In Santiago, they've been fine. I know that we have Baez. We still have Degir. We have a couple guys who are still left. And then, of course, for once again, Acapulco, so far, knock on wood, been decent. So we'll see what happens over the next couple days. But until next time, good luck to all of you and all of your bets. Bye, everyone.